Hi again, Risa here, back with another episode of Ask Risa. This is my weekly video series where I discuss common wedding planning problems and questions, things that you might be thinking about or wondering about if you're planning your own wedding. There are a bunch of other videos in this series. You can find those either on my YouTube channel, Risa James Events, or on my IGTV page on my Instagram profile. This week, I want to talk about wedding bars and your different options when it comes to the alcohol that you're going to serve at your wedding. So you essentially have four options when it comes to the bar. You can do full bar with, the full range of alcoholic beverage options. You can do beer plus wine plus some number of signature cocktails, whether it's one or two or a couple more than that. Or you can do just beer and wine with no liquor at all, no signature cocktails, nothing like that. Or lastly, you could have no alcohol at all. I personally don't recommend that option unless you don't drink for religious reasons and most of your friends and family are the same religion and also share your practices when it comes to alcohol. In that case, then fine, that is fine to not serve alcohol at your wedding. Many Muslim weddings, for instance, don't have alcohol because they abstain from alcohol. So it makes sense that there's no alcohol at their weddings because most of the people who are going to be there don't drink anyway. So that's fine. But if it's just you who doesn't drink, but all your friends and family do, I would strongly urge you to reconsider if you're planning to not have alcohol at your event, because it's definitely more fun for people when they can have, some wine or beer or whatever like that. I went to a dry wedding once. A friend of mine took me as his guest, and I don't think either one of us knew it was going to be a dry wedding before we went, and it was weird. I mean, dancing doesn't really happen. It was just kind of odd. It was a whole odd situation. So I don't recommend not serving alcohol at all unless you have a religious reason for doing it and it fits into your culture. The other thing that I don't recommend, and this is just an absolute no-no when it comes to weddings and bars, is having a cash bar. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Full stop. Just don't do it. It is very, I hate to use the word gauche. I use that word a lot, but it's gauche. You have invited people to come to your wedding as your guest. To ask them to pay for something is just not socially acceptable. You wouldn't invite them to your wedding and ask them to pay for dinner, so why would you invite them and ask them to pay for drinks? If it's a budget situation, then just make a different choice. Just serve beer and wine, which is much cheaper than doing liquor and signature cocktails and things like that. Do something, do anything other than having a cash bar. I can't stress that enough. Don't do it. So now that I've gotten on my no cash bar soapbox, let's talk about the options when you are going to actually serve alcohol. So start with the easy ones, beer and wine only. This can be a good way to keep costs down because liquor is just more expensive than beer and wine generally. And if you're doing beer, if you have the capability, you can do kegs and save some money that way because you can sort of get more beer for your dollar when you do it as a keg. You just have to make sure that you think about it, get your quantities right, because you don't want to have a bunch of leftover beer in a keg because those usually have to be returned the next day or maybe 2 days later. But if you have a bunch of beer left in a keg, it's not good. So you want to make sure you gauge your quantities properly. And when you serve wine, a standard bottle of wine is 5 glasses. If you buy a magnum of wine, so a standard bottle is 750 milliliters. A magnum is basically a double-sized wine bottle. So it's 1.5 liters. So that's 10 glasses per bottle, just to help you gauge that. It is more economical to buy magnums if you're going to buy your own alcohol and get 10 glasses per bottle. I think I'm going to do a whole post just about wine because I have a lot to say on the subject. So I'm going to try to set that aside until later. So beer and wine is your least expensive option. Then if you do want to have some liquor in the mix, but you don't want to go full bar, doing signature cocktails is definitely the way to go. Most often we'll do two signature cocktails. We'll have a his for the groom and a hers for the bride, or, you know, hers and hers, his and his, if it's a same-sex wedding. That's totally fine. Some venues, I've come across this problem before, only will allow you to do one signature cocktail. So then you don't do like a his and hers, you just choose one, and that's the official cocktail of your wedding. Or maybe you'll want to do a few, you know, you could do as many as 4, more than 4, and you're starting to get into complicated territory and you need a lot of supplies and things like that. So anywhere from 1 to 4 signature cocktails is the way to go. And again, if you're trying to save money, but you really want to have cocktails, you can limit the amount of time that the cocktail is served. So for example, when my husband and I got married, we had a very wine-centric wedding because we are wine aficionados. So we chose very specific wines to go with the different courses and the different meal options, and we had it all mapped out. We had a wine list on every table. But I also really wanted signature cocktails. So we compromised and we had the signature cocktails, a his and hers, just during cocktail hour. So for that hour period between the ceremony and dinner, we had those cocktails available. But then once dinner started, the bar stopped serving those cocktails and we transitioned just to wine, and we had beer too because not everybody drinks wine, but we were really focused on the wine. And so not only did it meet our goal of having a wine-centric wedding, but it also saved us some money because we were only serving the liquor for an hour. So that's something to consider as well. So then your highest level option when it comes to the bar is a full bar. I do not recommend this if you are having your wedding somewhere where you have to bring all this stuff in. Full bar is good if you're getting married at like a hotel or some sort of event center that has, you know, catering and bar built in, country clubs, things like that. Somewhere where they have the alcohol on hand all the time for another reason. Why? Because it's a lot. It's a lot of alcohol. It's a lot of bottles. It takes up a lot of space. Think about any hotel bar you've ever been to, any bar you've ever been to. They have a giant wall behind the bar and it is full of liquor. In order to offer your guests a full bar, you would have to bring in all that liquor. I mean, you need a vodka, at least one, maybe more. You need gin, you need Irish whiskey, Scotch whiskey, Canadian whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, bourbon, cognac, tequila, mezcal. I mean, it's a lot. Do you really want to bring all that into your wedding, into your facility? Probably not, because then you also don't know who's gonna drink what. So how much tequila do I need versus mezcal, or how much Irish whiskey versus Canadian whiskey? When you're getting married at a hotel, it doesn't matter. They have all that inventory on hand. They're just selling drinks by the drink. And if you get married at a hotel, they're gonna charge you what's called consumption pricing. So however many gin and tonics your party drinks, you know, you're gonna get charged for those. However many Jack Daniels or Lagavulins or, you know, Jim Beams or whatever, they're gonna charge you based on what your guests drink, as opposed to if you are bringing the alcohol in, you're just gonna buy a whole bunch of bottles and you're either gonna use them all up or you're gonna have leftovers at the end of the night and you're gonna take those leftovers home. But if you're responsible for bringing in the alcohol, or if you've chosen to bring in the alcohol, you don't wanna do a full bar. Just trust me on this, it's gonna be too much. Because besides all that alcohol, you also have to provide all the mixers and all the fruit garnishes, and it just snowballs. It snowballs real fast and it adds up, and you will be sorry if you decide to go that route. But if you are getting married at some place that has the bar built in, then, you know, fine, do the whole bar, whatever you want. That's the way to go. So those are your options as far as the alcohol to serve. If you are getting married somewhere like a hotel that's doing the catering and the bar in-house, you don't really have to do anything. You just have to decide whether you're going to serve well, call, or premium. You know, those are the different levels of alcohol. So there's, every place has their own, the cheapest option, then there's a mid-grade option, and then there's the highest option, which is the premium option. And they all decide which particular brand of gin or whiskey or vodka or tequila falls into those tiers. You just have to decide which tier you want to offer to your guests. So that's the easiest way to do it. If your caterer is handling the bar for you, then basically you're going to be paying your catering for staffing to staff the bar, and you might be paying them per drink or per bottle of wine or something like that, or you might be able to provide the alcohol yourself. I do this a lot with my clients where even though we've hired a full service caterer and they're going to staff the bar, we buy the alcohol ourselves and we provide it to the caterer because it's cheaper for you to just buy it. Even if you're paying retail prices, you're not a wholesaler or anything, even buying it retail at like Total Wine or Costco or wherever, still going to be cheaper than what the caterer is going to charge you for it. But you do have to check with your caterer and with your venue to make sure that they are okay with you as the client providing the alcohol, because some of them have rules against that. So that's that. And then if you've got a caterer who's not providing the bar service, then you have a couple of different options. Most rental companies have bar fronts, the front and the counter, and then maybe even like some sides and a bar back that you can rent. And then you can hire staff separately to actually be the bartenders, prepare the drinks, prepare the garnishes, get everything set up. Or something that's popular out here in Northern California is horse trailer bars. There's quite a few of them in this area. They're basically what they sound like. It's a horse trailer that's been converted into a bar. They're mobile. The folks who own them pull them up to the site on a truck, unhitch them, move the truck out of the way, and then you've got this nice bar in a trailer with a counter and lights, and they serve drinks from that. So depending on where you live, there might be something similar in your area. So I have so much more to say on this subject, but I've already gone way over my time. I like to keep these to 10 minutes or less. So next week, I am going to talk just about signature cocktails, how to choose them, what your options are, things like that. And then I think the week after that, I will go and talk about wine some more because like I said, I have a lot to say on this subject. But let me know if you have any questions, leave me a comment, and I'm happy to answer your question. And I'll be back next week to talk more booze with you.